They move through the savanna like living mountains, gray silhouettes against the golden grass, their footsteps a rhythm felt through the earth itself. The African elephant, the largest land mammal on the planet, a creature whose very presence commands awe. An adult bull can stand 13 feet at the shoulder, weigh 7 tons, yet move with surprising grace. Their skin, thick as armor, wrinkled and weathered, tells stories of decades beneath the African sun. But size alone does not define them. It is their intelligence, their memory, their intricate social bonds that truly set them apart. A matriarch leading her family across ancient migration routes, paths remembered for generations, carved into memory as surely as rivers carve stone. The elephant is not merely surviving, it is thinking, feeling, mourning, celebrating. A society as complex as our own, hidden behind eyes that hold wisdom and sorrow in equal measure. The trunk, that remarkable appendage, is perhaps nature's most versatile tool. A fusion of nose and upper lip containing over 40,000 muscles yet no bones. It can uproot a tree with raw power, then moments later pluck a single blade of grass with surgical precision. It is a hand, a voice, a weapon, a snorkel. Elephants use their trunks to drink, sucking up to 14 liters of water at once, then curling the tip into their mouths. They spray themselves to cool down, coating their skin with dust and mud, a natural sunscreen and insect repellent. The trunk is also their primary means of communication, reaching out to touch, to caress, to comfort. A mother guides her calf with gentle trunk touches. Friends greet each other by intertwining trunks, a handshake of profound intimacy. During moments of stress or excitement, trunks are raised high, testing the air for scent, gathering information from miles away. The two finger-like projections at the tip, unique to African elephants, allow for incredible dexterity. They can untie knots, open gates, even paint when given the opportunity. This single organ is a masterpiece of evolution, a tool that has allowed elephants to thrive across diverse habitats, from dense forests to arid deserts. Their ears, massive and fan-like, serve purposes far beyond hearing. Each ear can measure 6 feet across, filled with a network of blood vessels visible as darker lines against the light. When the midday heat becomes oppressive, elephants flap their ears, creating a breeze that cools the blood flowing through those vessels, effectively lowering their body temperature by several degrees. The ears also communicate emotion and intent. Spread wide, they make the elephant appear larger, a display of aggression or warning. Folded back, they signal a charge is imminent. Relaxed and gently flapping, they indicate calm. The shape of the ears themselves tells a story. African elephants have ears shaped like the continent they call home, larger than their Asian cousins, an adaptation to the hotter climate. Their hearing is extraordinarily acute, capable of detecting low-frequency rumbles far below the range of human perception. These infrasonic calls travel through the ground and air for miles, allowing herds separated by vast distances to communicate, to coordinate movements, to warn of danger. Tusks, those magnificent ivory weapons, are actually elongated incisor teeth that continue growing throughout an elephant's life. Both males and females of the African species typically bear tusks, though some populations are increasingly born without them, a tragic evolutionary response to poaching pressure. Tusks are tools of survival. Elephants use them to dig for water during droughts, excavating dry riverbeds until precious moisture seeps up from below. They strip bark from trees, accessing the nutritious cambium layer beneath. They move obstacles, defend against predators, and establish dominance. A bull elephant's tusks can weigh over 200 pounds combined, curving gracefully forward, polished smooth by years of use. Each elephant favors one tusk over the other, much like humans favor a hand, wearing it down more through constant use. The tusks are also deeply integrated into their social behavior. During play, young elephants gently spar, learning to control their strength. In serious battles between bulls, tusks clash with tremendous force, the sound echoing across the plains like thunder. The social structure of elephant society is matriarchal, led by the oldest and often largest female. She is the repository of knowledge, the decision-maker, the guide. Her memory holds the locations of water sources that may only be accessible during the worst droughts, places she visited as a calf decades ago. She knows which routes are safest during migration, where predators tend to lurk, which plants are medicinal. The herd, typically consisting of related females and their offspring, follows her lead without question. This is not blind obedience but earned trust. Young females learn by watching, absorbing lessons that will one day make them leaders. When the matriarch dies, the family grieves. They may spend days with the body, touching it with their trunks, trying to lift it, as if unwilling to accept the loss. Eventually, an experienced daughter or sister assumes leadership, continuing the unbroken chain of knowledge passed from generation to generation. Bulls, by contrast, live more solitary lives once they reach adolescence. Around age 12 to 15, young males are gently pushed out of the family group, not violently expelled but gradually encouraged to spend more time away. They join bachelor herds, loose associations of males of various ages. Here they learn the complex hierarchy of bull society. Dominance is established through displays of size, strength, and the secretion of temporal glands. Serious fights are rare, most disputes settled through ritualized posturing. The largest, oldest bulls, those in their prime, often live alone, wandering vast territories, only seeking out herds when females are in estrus. These patriarchs are formidable, their experience and size commanding respect from all. Yet even the most dominant bull shows surprising gentleness around calves, tolerating playful youngsters who would never dare such familiarity with their mothers. Reproduction is a lengthy, complex process. Female elephants reach sexual maturity around age 10 to 12, but often do not breed until several years later. The estrus cycle lasts about 16 weeks, but the female is only receptive for a few days. During this time, she releases pheromones that attract bulls from miles around. Courtship is surprisingly tender for such massive creatures. The bull approaches cautiously, rumbling softly, touching her with his trunk. If she accepts, mating occurs, a brief union that may result in pregnancy. The gestation period is the longest of any land mammal, nearly 22 months. During this time, the pregnant female remains with her herd, protected and supported. As birth approaches, she may be attended by other experienced females, alamothers who will help raise the calf. Labor can last several days, ending with the arrival of a calf weighing around 250 pounds, already 3 feet tall. The newborn is immediately the center of attention. The entire herd gathers, rumbling with excitement, touching the baby with their trunks, helping it to its feet. Those first wobbly steps are crucial. The calf must stand and nurse within hours to survive. The mother is patient but insistent, using her trunk and feet to guide and support. Once nursing is established, the calf drinks up to 3 gallons of rich milk daily, gaining several pounds each day. But milk is not the only nourishment. The calf also consumes its mother's dung, ingesting essential bacteria needed to digest the plant matter it will eventually eat. This may seem unpleasant, but it is vital, transferring the microbiome necessary for survival. The early years of an elephant's life are filled with learning. Calves are playful and curious, exploring their world under the watchful eyes of the herd. They chase birds, splash in water, and engage in mock battles with their peers. But play serves a purpose. It builds strength, teaches social skills, and establishes bonds that may last a lifetime. Young elephants learn what to eat by watching their elders, discovering which plants are nutritious, which are medicinal, which are toxic. They learn to use their trunks through trial and error, initially clumsy and uncoordinated, eventually achieving the precision of their mothers. The herd protects them fiercely. When danger threatens, adults form a defensive circle, calves push to the center, tusks facing outward. Lions, hyenas, even crocodiles think twice before challenging such a formation. Elephants are ecosystem engineers, their feeding habits shaping the landscape itself. An adult can consume 300 pounds of vegetation daily, browsing on grasses, leaves, bark, fruits, and roots. They are not delicate eaters. When feeding on trees, they often push them over entirely, accessing the crown and stripping branches bare. This apparent destruction is actually creation. Fallen trees open the canopy, allowing sunlight to reach the ground, stimulating new growth that benefits countless other species. Elephants disperse seeds across vast distances, their dung providing fertile packets of nutrients and moisture. Some plants have evolved to depend on elephants, their seeds only germinating after passing through an elephant's digestive system. During droughts, elephants dig wells, using their tusks and feet to excavate dry riverbeds. These waterholes benefit not only elephants but zebras, antelope, and countless smaller creatures. In this way, elephants maintain biodiversity, their presence essential to the health of the entire ecosystem. Communication among elephants is remarkably sophisticated, operating on multiple levels. The most obvious are the trumpets, screams, and roars audible to human ears, expressions of excitement, alarm, or aggression. But the majority of elephant communication occurs below our hearing threshold. Infrasonic rumbles, as low as 14 hertz, travel through the air and ground for miles. Elephants detect these vibrations through their feet, which are equipped with specialized receptors. A herd can coordinate movements across vast distances, mothers can call to calves, bulls can announce their presence all through this secret language. Body language is equally important. The position of the trunk, ears, tail, and head all convey meaning. A raised head and spread ears signal alertness or aggression. A lowered head with tusks pointed forward is a clear threat. Gentle ear flapping and a relaxed trunk indicate calm. Touch is perhaps the most intimate form of communication. Elephants constantly reach out to one another, trunk to mouth, trunk to temporal gland, trunk to genitals, gathering information about identity, emotional state, and reproductive status. Their intelligence is undeniable, demonstrated through problem-solving, tool use, and self-awareness. Elephants have been observed using branches to swat flies, dropping logs onto electric fences to short them out, and even covering themselves with specific plants to repel insects. They recognize themselves in mirrors, a test passed by only a handful of species, indicating a sense of self. Their memory is legendary and accurate. Elephants remember individuals, both elephant and human, for decades. They recall locations visited once years before. They modify their behavior based on past experiences, avoiding areas where they encountered danger, returning to places where resources were abundant. This cognitive ability is supported by a brain weighing over 11 pounds, with a highly developed hippocampus and cerebral cortex, regions associated with memory and complex thought. Grief and empathy are perhaps their most striking characteristics. When an elephant dies, the herd mourns. They touch the body repeatedly, gently exploring with their trunks as if trying to understand death itself. They may attempt to lift the fallen elephant, covering it with branches and dirt, a form of burial. They return to the bones months or even years later, handling the remains with obvious reverence, particularly the skull and tusks. Elephants have been observed standing vigil over dead companions for days, refusing to leave. This is not anthropomorphism. The behavior is consistent, observed across populations and decades. They also show empathy for the living. When a calf falls, adults rush to help it up. When a herd member is injured, others slow their pace, supporting and protecting the vulnerable individual. They have been seen helping other species, lifting rhino calves stuck in mud, guiding lost buffalo to water. This capacity for compassion challenges our understanding of animal emotion, suggesting an inner life far richer than we once imagined. Migration is central to elephant survival, ancient routes followed for millennia, connecting water sources, feeding grounds, and breeding areas. These journeys can span hundreds of miles, timed to seasonal rains and plant growth. The matriarch leads her memory the map. The herd moves in single file, adults flanking the young, maintaining a steady pace that even the smallest calf can manage. They walk through the night when temperatures are cooler, resting during the heat of the day in the shade of baobabs and acacias. Along the way, they encounter other herds, greeting old friends, exchanging information through rumbles and touches. These migrations are not random wandering but purposeful travel, each stop carefully chosen. But human development has fractured these routes. Roads, fences, and settlements now block ancient paths, forcing elephants into smaller, isolated pockets of habitat. When migrations are disrupted, populations suffer, unable to access the resources they need to survive. Water is life for elephants, and they are never far from it during the wet season. They drink daily, up to 50 gallons, using their trunks to suck water and spray it into their mouths. But drinking is only part of their relationship with water. Elephants love to bathe, spending hours in rivers and waterholes, submerging completely, only their trunks raised like snorkels. They spray each other, roll in the shallows, and coat themselves with mud. This is not mere recreation. The mud protects their skin from the sun's harsh rays and from biting insects. As it dries and flakes off, it removes parasites and dead skin. Young calves learn to swim early, buoyed by their bodies, paddling with surprising grace. During the dry season, water becomes scarce, and elephants must rely on memory and ingenuity. They dig in riverbeds, sometimes excavating holes 6 feet deep, waiting patiently for water to seep in. These elephant wells become lifelines for entire ecosystems, providing water for countless species that lack the strength to dig themselves. The relationship between elephants and trees is complex, both destructive and creative. Elephants feed on bark, particularly during the dry season when other food is scarce. They use their tusks to strip away the outer layers, exposing the nutritious cambium beneath. A single elephant can kill a mature tree through this feeding, girdling it completely. Entire woodlands can be transformed into open grassland by elephant feeding pressure. But this is not ecological disaster. It is natural disturbance, part of the cycle. Grasslands support different species, and the dead trees provide habitat for insects, birds, and small mammals. Over time, if elephant pressure decreases, trees regenerate and the cycle continues. Some trees have evolved defenses, chemical compounds that taste bitter, thorns that deter feeding. The iconic acacia, with its flat-topped crown and vicious spines, is shaped by elephant browsing, growing just out of reach. Baobabs, those ancient giants with swollen trunks, are both targets and beneficiaries. Elephants gouge their soft wood for moisture during droughts, creating cavities that fill with rainwater. Yet baobabs endure for thousands of years, their relationship with elephants measured in millennia. Predation is rare but not unheard of. Adult elephants have no natural predators, their size and strength deterring even the most ambitious lions. But calves are vulnerable, particularly very young ones. A pride of lions working together can separate a calf from the herd, though this is extremely dangerous. The herd's response is immediate and fierce. Adults charge, trumpeting with rage, using their bulk and tusks as weapons. Most predators retreat rather than risk injury. Crocodiles pose a threat at waterholes, lunging from the shallows to grab trunks or legs. Elephants are wary, testing the water with their trunks before entering and drinking quickly. Hyenas occasionally take newborns, but again the herd's vigilance makes this rare. The greatest threat to elephants has never been other animals. It has always been humans. For thousands of years, humans and elephants coexisted, our relationships complex and varied. In some cultures, elephants were revered, symbols of wisdom, strength, and good fortune. In others, they were hunted, their meat and hides valuable resources. Traditional hunting was sustainable, taking only what was needed, never threatening populations. The arrival of the ivory trade changed everything. Suddenly, elephants were worth more dead than alive, their tusks transformed into trinkets, piano keys, and ornaments. The slaughter was industrial in scale. Millions of elephants were killed across Africa and Asia, entire populations erased. By the late 20th century, African elephant numbers had plummeted from millions to hundreds of thousands. The crisis prompted international action. The ivory trade was banned in many countries and protected areas were established. Populations began to recover in some regions, a testament to the elephant's resilience. But the threat never disappeared, it merely evolved. Poaching remains a constant danger, driven by demand for ivory in distant markets. Criminal syndicates, armed with automatic weapons and helicopters, slaughter elephants with ruthless efficiency. They hack off the tusks and leave the bodies to rot, sometimes killing entire family groups to avoid witnesses. The psychological trauma on survivors is profound. Orphaned calves, having watched their mothers die, exhibit signs of post-traumatic stress, hypervigilance, aggression, and inability to integrate into new herds. The loss of matriarchs disrupts social structures, erasing generations of accumulated knowledge. Young, inexperienced leaders make poor decisions, leading herds into danger. Populations in some areas are now dominated by tuskless females, evolution responding to selection pressure within a single human lifetime. This is adaptation born of tragedy, a species reshaping itself to survive our greed. Habitat loss rivals poaching as an existential threat. Africa's human population is growing rapidly, and wild spaces are being converted to agriculture, settlements, and infrastructure at an unprecedented rate. Elephants require vast areas to survive, their ranges spanning thousands of square miles. As habitat fragments, populations become isolated, unable to access traditional resources or interbreed with other groups. This genetic isolation leads to inbreeding, reducing fitness and resilience. Elephants are forced into smaller and smaller pockets of land, often bringing them into direct conflict with humans. They raid crops, devouring entire fields in a single night, destroying the livelihoods of subsistence farmers. In retaliation, elephants are shot, poisoned, or driven away. This conflict is not the fault of elephants or humans but a consequence of impossible proximity, too many needs competing for too little space. Human-elephant conflict is one of the most pressing conservation challenges. For a farmer barely surviving on a small plot of land, a visit from elephants can mean starvation. The temptation to kill the raiders is understandable, even if tragic. Solutions require creativity and collaboration. Electric fences, when properly maintained, can deter elephants, though they are expensive and require constant upkeep. Chili pepper fences, using the elephant's sensitive trunks against them, have shown promise in some areas. Beehive fences exploit elephants' fear of bees, creating barriers of sound and threat. Early warning systems, using motion sensors or community scouts, alert farmers to approaching elephants, allowing them to scare herds away before damage occurs. Compensation schemes, where farmers are paid for crop losses, reduce the incentive to kill. But the most effective solution is space. Creating and maintaining wildlife corridors, protecting migration routes, and expanding protected areas give elephants room to exist without encroaching on human livelihoods. Climate change adds another layer of threat, altering the landscapes elephants depend on. Droughts are becoming longer and more severe, drying up water sources and reducing vegetation. Elephants must travel farther to find food and water, expending precious energy and increasing the risk of conflict. Calves, already vulnerable, suffer most, their smaller bodies less able to withstand heat and dehydration. Conversely, intense storms and flooding can destroy habitat, washing away nests and drowning young. Shifting rainfall patterns disrupt the timing of plant growth, throwing off the carefully calibrated migrations that elephants have followed for generations. The matriarch's memory, once infallible, becomes less reliable as the landscape changes faster than knowledge can adapt. Elephants are resilient, capable of adjusting to new conditions, but the pace of change may outstrip their ability to respond. Conservation efforts offer hope, fragile but real. Protected areas, national parks, and reserves provide safe havens where elephants can live without immediate threat of poaching or habitat loss. Anti-poaching patrols, equipped with modern technology, drones, GPS tracking, and intelligence networks, disrupt criminal operations before they strike. Community-based conservation programs empower local people, giving them ownership and economic incentive to protect wildlife. Ecotourism, when done responsibly, generates revenue that supports conservation and provides jobs, transforming elephants from liabilities into assets. Translocation projects move elephants from areas of high conflict to regions where populations have been depleted, restoring ecological balance and genetic diversity. Rehabilitation centers care for orphaned calves, raising them with the goal of eventual release back into the wild. These efforts require funding, political will, and international cooperation, but they work. Populations in well-protected areas are stable or even growing, proof that with commitment, recovery is possible. Research continues to deepen our understanding, revealing new dimensions of elephant biology and behavior. Scientists use GPS collars to track movements, mapping migration routes and identifying critical habitats. Genetic studies assess population health, detecting inbreeding and guiding management decisions. Acoustic monitoring records infrasonic calls, decoding the language of elephants, and revealing communication networks spanning entire landscapes. Behavioral studies observe social dynamics, documenting culture, the passing of knowledge and traditions from one generation to the next. Different elephant populations have distinct behaviors, unique ways of solving problems, preferences for certain foods, variations in social structure. This is not instinct alone, but learned tradition, culture in the truest sense. Protecting elephants means protecting not just a species, but countless unique societies, each with its own identity and knowledge. The future of elephants depends entirely on human choices. We have the power to drive them to extinction or to ensure their survival for millennia to come. The choice is ours, made daily through the policies we support, the products we buy, the land we protect. Ivory has no place in the modern world. Every trinket, every carving, every piece of jewelry represents a life taken, a family shattered. Refusing to buy ivory, supporting bans, and prosecuting traffickers cuts off the demand that drives poaching. Protecting habitat requires political courage, setting aside land for wildlife even when economic pressures demand development. It requires recognizing that wild spaces have value beyond immediate profit, that biodiversity, clean water, and functioning ecosystems are the foundation of human prosperity. Supporting local communities, providing alternatives to conflict, and sharing the benefits of conservation ensures that those living alongside elephants become their allies rather than adversaries. Education is equally vital. When people understand elephants, their intelligence, their social bonds, their ecological importance, they are more likely to protect them. Sharing their stories, documenting their lives, and celebrating their existence builds the cultural will necessary for long-term conservation. Children who grow up knowing elephants, even if only through images and stories, carry that connection into adulthood, shaping future decisions. Every documentary, every photograph, every article contributes to a growing awareness that elephants are not mere resources or obstacles but fellow inhabitants of this planet, deserving of respect and space. The elephant stands at a crossroads, its fate uncertain. In some regions, populations are recovering, herds expanding into areas where they had been absent for decades. In others, the decline continues, poaching and habitat loss driving numbers ever downward. The next few decades will be critical, determining whether our grandchildren inherit a world with wild elephants or only stories of what once was. The responsibility is immense, but so is the opportunity. To save elephants is to save ecosystems, to protect water sources, to maintain biodiversity, to preserve wonder. It is to choose a future where the largest land mammal still walks the earth, where herds still migrate across ancient routes, where matriarchs still lead their families with wisdom earned over decades. Imagine a world without elephants. Savannas silent, no rumbles vibrating through the earth, no massive shapes moving through the golden grass. Forests overgrown, lacking the disturbance that creates diversity. Waterholes dry, no wells dug by powerful tusks. It is a diminished world, impoverished in ways both measurable and profound. Now imagine the alternative. Protected corridors connecting habitats, allowing elephants to roam freely. Communities thriving alongside wildlife, benefiting from tourism and conservation funding. Poaching reduced to rare incidents, populations stable and growing. Calves playing in the shallows, learning from their mothers, preparing to lead the next generation. This future is possible, but only if we act. To witness an elephant in the wild is to experience something primal, a connection to the natural world that transcends words. The sheer scale, the intelligence in those ancient eyes, the tenderness of a mother guiding her calf, it changes you. You realize that we share this planet with creatures of profound complexity, beings whose lives matter, whose existence enriches our own. The elephant is a mirror, reflecting our values, our priorities, our capacity for compassion or cruelty. In protecting them, we protect something essential in ourselves, the recognition that life, in all its forms, has intrinsic worth. The gentle giant of the African plains is neither gentle nor giant in isolation. It is part of a web, connected to every other species, every tree, every drop of water. Its survival is intertwined with our own, not because we need ivory or tourism revenue, but because a world that cannot sustain elephants cannot sustain us. They are indicators of ecosystem health, their presence a sign that the land is whole, functioning, alive. Their absence is a warning, a signal that we have taken too much, pushed too hard, forgotten our place in the natural order, so we must choose. We must protect the wetlands, the grasslands, the forests where elephants roam. We must create corridors, expand reserves, and enforce laws against poaching. We must support communities, providing alternatives to conflict and sharing the benefits of conservation. We must educate, inspire, and advocate, building a global movement committed to coexistence. We must remember that every elephant matters, every family, every individual with its own history and future. We must act with urgency because time is running out, but also with hope, because success is possible. The matriarch leads her herd toward water, her memory guiding them along paths walked by her grandmother and hers before. The calves follow, playful and curious, learning lessons that will sustain them for decades. The bulls wander, solitary or in loose groups, their presence shaping the land. The herd drinks, bathes, and rests in the shade, a scene repeated for millions of years. This is not the past. It is the present, fragile and precious. With our help, it can also be the future. The elephant endures, a testament to resilience, intelligence, and the enduring power of life. Our task is simple. Give them space. Give them protection. Give them a future. In return, they give us wonder, a reminder that we are part of something larger, something worth preserving. The gentle giant walks on, and we must ensure that walk continues, across generations, across centuries, into a future where humans and elephants share the earth, not as conquerors and conquered, but as fellow travelers on this extraordinary journey of life.